It's almost 2022. We're halfway there. We still have issues with vaccines, COVID. How are Christians to respond to this? We're going to tackle that today on the podcast. Hey everybody, my name is Josh Martin. Welcome to Building Bridges. I wanted to talk today about all of the issues with mask mandates, COVID-19. A lot is going on. It's been a year and a half, approaching 2 years pretty soon, and still we have a battle for wearing masks and getting vaccines, and if buildings need to be closed, churches need to be closed, all of these things. And so I thought we would talk about that from a Christian perspective today. What I think the issue in the Christian realm that a lot of people are against wearing masks, against vaccinations, I think a lot of that comes from the fact that primarily Christians are very conservative politically. And if you listen to any type of political talking heads, Tucker Carlson, people like that, Fox News, Newsmax, anybody that is on the side of conservative politics are almost always against any type of mandate. And they're always talking about that it's a form of control and that it's a basically like a Trojan horse for socialism, wearing masks. But the question is, what's not the political reply, but what is the Christian reply? What is the godly response to these things? First off, I think a lot about Jesus, and that Jesus often says we're to be a servant, that the least among us are the greatest, and that we are to serve mankind, to love them. And through these things, we're able to share the gospel with the lost people. And I think about when Jesus washed the feet of the disciples. He washed their feet. He was just basically showing them that the work of a Christian, a Christ follower, is one of service. For me, I think that translates into issues like wearing a mask. That there is a pandemic, a legitimate pandemic that is real, that is validated globally, not just, from any type of liberal politicians, but a globally recognized pandemic. And, I know we live in America and we have our choices and we have our freedoms, but we need to put all of that aside for a moment and think about the eternal aspect of things. If you follow Jesus, if you say that he's your savior, and the tone of your voice, the things you promote is always angst, being against anything the government says, not because the government says it, but because there is a Democrat in office, then you are really taking political stances and not spiritual Christian stances. And there's a difference. This is one of the issues that we have in America, that American Christianity is really like a hybrid of American ideals, American governmental structures, the American dream, and Jesus is embedded in all of that. Instead of it being like Christ is Lord and everything is underneath that, we tend to filter American values into the Bible, and that's what we make our Bible to be. So when we think of things like COVID-19, we are taking more political stances than we are taking Christian stances. I think personally that if wearing a mask, which the CDC, who are experts in diseases, are saying that wearing a mask can help stop the spread. It doesn't say it'll fix it. It says it will help stop the spread. And if we have a Christian mindset of serving others and loving our neighbor, then we should consider why we're not wearing a mask. Are we not wearing a mask because we follow conservative politics and we're on board with them? Are we not wearing a mask for any other reason? I personally do not find a problem with wearing a mask. I think wearing a mask shows your fellow man that you're wanting to do your part and to help fight this disease. Now, I understand the vaccine part of it. The vaccine part is a little more complicated because there are some moral issues with the making of the vaccination, and there's also some uncertainties because everything is so fast-paced right now. I can understand the vaccine part, and I can greatly respect why people don't want to get vaccinated. I personally advocate the vaccine. I've had it, but I understand why some Christians are a little reluctant to that. But the mask issue, I don't see anything unbiblical, ungodly, or wrong with masks. And being able to wear a mask, to me, is similar to washing someone's feet. That's my viewpoint on it. You may disagree, but I'm curious if your disagreement has more to do with political ideology than biblical theology. So what we got to make sure we do as Christians is we got to understand that COVID-19 and this whole pandemic in America has just been upended. I mean, everything is so different now. I mean, just recently, I've had 2 weeks of trying to order Lunchables. There's a Lunchable shortage right now. If you don't know that, you're having a hard time finding Lunchables. And then other times you had a hard time finding toilet paper, and you had a hard time finding this. And, people have lost their jobs and lives have been suddenly taken. And it's just like America was thrown into chaos, and we're kind of slowly getting our bearings together and slowly kind of coming together to figure this all out. But everything's just been upended that you and I know in the history of America. Everything has changed. And a lot of people are uncertain about what to do. A lot of people have fear, and a lot of people are worried that they're going to lose their business. They're going to lose their loved ones. They're going to lose all of these things. And there's so much uncertainty. And I think the role of Christians in the midst of all of this is to proclaim a message that Jesus is with us, that God is with us. He will help us through this. We can trust in him. And it's such a optimum time to share the gospel. But man, you look on social media, you hear preachers on TV, and you listen to your fellow friends and families who say they're Christians, and there's just so much ugliness, so much divisiveness, so much just angst against anything that does not align with conservative political ideology. And it really bothers me because from the outside looking in, a lot of people who don't know Christ, they see that and they want to have nothing to do with that. That there seems to be more compassion in lost people during the pandemic than the very people whose Lord is filled with compassion. And that really bothers me. That really bothers me a lot. To see someone, a news article about someone dying, and then the feed is all about people saying, well, it's not a real disease. It's just this, that, it's just socialism and all that. And I know a lot of those people are Christians, say that they're Christians, and they're just doing all these things. And when someone dies of COVID and you say things like that, it's like a slap in the face. So you need to think about, if Jesus Christ really is your Lord, like the biblical Jesus, not the American idea of Jesus, if Jesus truly is your Lord, then you need to read the New Testament, see how much he loved people. And when you read and see that Jesus was more about relationships and he challenged them and they did not like it, and eventually they played a role in killing him, I see a lot of Pharisee in American Christianity. A lot of people are doing something called deconstructing from evangelicalism. And evangelicalism is basically like your conservative group of Christians in America. They're like a voting bloc that politicians know how to pander to. And I just see so much of it, guys. I see so much politics driving Christians more than reading their Bible, seeing that God is a relational being, seeing Christ serve people, love people, wash their feet, and telling them that these are the things that we are to do to be salt and light on the earth. You don't see that in the evangelical culture. So what is the Christian response to COVID-19, the pandemic, and all that? Is we're to love people. We're to show mercy. We're to grieve with those who have lost loved ones. We're to do our part, what we can, to help with the pandemic. Not all Christians are the same. If you're watching this and you think all Christians are just like these religious nuts who are just Trump supporters and Republican faith arms and all that, we're not all that way. Christianity is just as diverse as any other people group. That there are people that are hardcore political conservatives. There are people that are kind of in the middle, like myself. And you have people that are on the far right, left side of things. But all of that cast aside, the most important thing is that a soul would be saved. That someone who is lost will know Christ. And are you hindering that with your political views, with your ugliness, with your conspiracy theories? Or are you building a bridge in times of uncertainty and turmoil, comforting lost souls and sharing the gospel and carrying yourself in a way that they will actually listen? Those are some things to think about. You guys have a blessed day.